Earlier today I was in Spokane and I participated with 3 others on a panel, and we were discussing interfaith in Spokane, the importance of it and the challenges. And this kind of activity happens fairly regularly. I don't know if the Abbey's gone before, but I went today and represented the Abbey. And it was really fascinating what was discussed there, and the very high interest. There were more than 50 people at this coffee shop. And so I thought I'd just share with you 2 books that I read in preparation for this talk. They're magnificent books. So if you're interested in expanding your own understanding of interfaith, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has written 2 books. This one is called The Good Heart, A Buddhist Perspective on the Teachings of Jesus. So His Holiness is commenting on the Beatitudes. And it's really fascinating to hear a Buddhist monk comment on these teachings. And the other book that I read is also magnificent. It's called Toward a True Kinship of Faiths, How the World's Religions Can Come Together. And so as I was thinking about interfaith, I was thinking about my own experience growing up Catholic, and then stepping away from the Catholic faith, and then much later encountering Buddhism. And I had my own interfaith experience much later on. Every time I would go home, I would go with my mum to Mass. She was a very devout Catholic. And I went to Mass even when I was learning about Buddhism, even after I ordained, because it made her happy and she needed a driver, so I'd go along. And I found that the more I learned about Buddhism, the more I could appreciate the Catholic faith. That was just a huge bonus. And I certainly didn't leave the Catholic faith as an angry person and fed up and everything like that. It was just something that wasn't working for me anymore. So I thought I'd share some quotes from His Holiness the Dalai Lama about how to approach interfaith. And this is what he says. This is a quote from The Good Heart. He affirms the importance of scholarly dialogue, but he also said he felt the most important and most effective dialogue was not intellectual exchange, but a conversation between sincere practitioners from the position of their own faiths, a conversation that arises from a sharing of their respective practices. And then he goes on to say, dialogue is meant to illuminate the parallels and the divergences of belief in order to dispel the dark forces of delusion, fear, anger, and pride that can lurk in the spaces between people and their religions. The less we know about another person or group, the more likely we are to project our worst feelings and prejudices onto them. So, growing up a Catholic, I was sent to catechism, where we were supposed to be learning about our faith, and those early years when I was a kid were run by volunteers who I think probably didn't know much about the Catholic faith either. And so we were told things like, well, it's only Catholics who are getting to heaven, and everyone else is going to hell. And as a kid hearing this was very perplexing, because I wasn't going to a Catholic school. Everyone in my grade, most of them weren't Catholics, and I thought, how can this be? You know, there's Kathy Semple. She's a wonderful person. She's much kinder than I am. How could I be going to heaven and Kathy's going to hell? And so this was a perplexing problem always that really didn't get cleared up until I knew more about the Catholic faith. And that certainly is not a Catholic view. That's just someone who's not so informed and sharing from their lack of knowledge. Let's see. And I think if we look at our own experience too, if we're not so knowledgeable about our own faith, then we're likely to have judgmental attitudes about other faiths. So if we're not really knowledgeable and we haven't studied, then for sure we haven't studied other faiths either, and we're just going to take from the media what is the current mode, or understanding, and that is often quite ill-informed as well. In His Holiness's book, Toward a True Kinship of Faith, he points out that understanding between faiths must be placed on a deep recognition of the real differences that exist between faiths. A successful approach cannot hide the differences by promoting some vague vision of all religions actually being one, nor can it be an attempt to merge their various strengths into some universal faith. Rather, it must involve the explicit articulation and celebration of difference. For the differences between religions represent the beauty of God's infinite wisdom from a theistic perspective and the richness of the human spirit. So I think that's very important too. It's not like we have to all decide that, okay, all religions have these similarities, so we can all feel like we're all one, and it's just we're all going, we're all one great big religious family. Well, that's not quite it, because there are very distinct differences between religions. And I think it's very important, first of all, to come at this topic by looking at what's similar. And certainly all religions have this underpinning of compassion. And then to, with the spirit of curiosity and inquisitiveness, to really investigate the differences, which can be just a celebration, And as His Holiness points out in these books, having one religion doesn't make sense anyway. And it would be like going to university and having one course. Like, this is all you can study at university. This is it. Or growing up in a family where your parents are both doctors and they're both toenail specialist doctors, and being told as a child, you're going to be a toenail specialist too. And you're going to go to school and this is what you're going to study, to be a toenail specialist. Well, that's not going to work. And so His Holiness points out, and so do many people, that given our vast differences in personality, all of these religions are really critical because they allow an individual to really flourish and develop and grow into a human being who is caring and loving. And that really is the goal of a religion, to develop a person to their utmost potential. And so whatever it is that helps a person do that, I think is really where that person should gravitate in their religious leanings. So it was a very interesting dialogue today at the coffee shop. There's a lot of interest, and I think people are really wanting to come together with people of different faiths and explore these similarities and differences. So it was a very rich time.